Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. No respite in the tariff war in sight as allies and others hit back at US with countermeasures. Trump warns of retaliatory tariffs, says US will win the financial battle with EU. Arab leaders signal readiness to continue consultations on the Gaza plan with US as a foundation for the reconstruction efforts. Trump says nobody expelling Palestinians from Gaza. G7 foreign ministers discuss Ukraine as US negotiators head to Moscow for a ceasefire. Kremlin says awaiting details of a US-Ukrainian proposal agreed this week. Pakistan military ends train standoff, claims to neutralizing all 33 attackers, says 27 soldiers also killed in the operation. US President Donald Trump on Wednesday vowed to respond to the European Union's threat to impose counter tariffs on 26 billion euros worth of US goods from next month after Trump implemented blanket tariffs on steel and aluminium imports. At the start of a meeting with Irish Prime Minister Micheál Martin in the Oval Office, Trump said Ireland, a member of the European Union, was among countries taking advantage of the United States.
The European Union treats us very badly. They have for years. I saw that. I had it out with them in my first term. It did well, but we had to solve other problems, and we did. But European Union's been very tough, and it's our turn too. You know, we get a turn at that also, but they have not been fair. They sue our companies and win massive amounts of money. They sued Apple, won $17 billion.
I understand fully where the president is coming from. I think there's actually room. Now we can discuss all this. I think there's room for those companies to grow in America, and many of them, by the way, have already announced fairly significant manufacturing investments now.
It's true.
The global tariff war escalated this week as President Trump imposed sweeping 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports, further fueling tensions. The move, part of Trump's broader trade strategy, has sparked immediate backlash from key trade partners, including the EU, China and Canada. As retaliations loom, countries like the UK and Australia have expressed their concerns. DD India's Mihir Maikuri has more.
The global tariff war escalated further on Wednesday as sweeping 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports imposed by US President Donald Trump came into effect. This move marks the latest chapter in Trump's broader tariff strategy designed to even out perceived trade imbalances and revive domestic industries.
The tariffs are having a tremendously positive impact. They will have, and they are having. We have car companies that are not building in Mexico now. They're building in the United States. Some of them, the plants were already started and they stopped construction, and now they're going to build in the United States.
Trump's decision was met with immediate and fierce backlash from two of Washington's biggest trade partners, China and the European Union. Both vowed to retaliate, asserting their intent to defend their economic interests in response to the new tariffs.
As the United States are applying tariffs worth $28 billion, we are responding with countermeasures worth 26 billion euros. Our countermeasures will be introduced in two steps, starting with April 1st and fully in place as of April 13th.
In the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer expressed disappointment over Trump's latest tariffs, adding that the government would consider all options in response.
On the question of tariffs, obviously, like everybody else, I'm disappointed to see global tariffs in relation to steel and aluminium. But we will take a pragmatic approach. We are, as he knows, negotiating an economic deal which covers and will include tariffs if we succeed, but we will keep all options on the table.
Australia, another key US ally, also condemned the tariffs as not a friendly act, although it refrained from imposing any reciprocal tariffs. After initially announcing plans to double tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from Canada to 50%, Trump reversed his decision on Tuesday, sparking confusion in the financial markets. The shift followed a similar retreat by a Canadian official who had previously considered imposing a 25% surcharge on electricity exports from Ontario to the United States. Canada also announced additional tariffs on $20.7 billion worth of US goods, including computers and sports equipment, in retaliation against American levies on Canadian steel and aluminum. These Canadian tariffs will come into effect on Thursday. The imposition of steel and aluminum tariffs presents a risky gamble. While it could provide a boost to America's domestic industries, it may simultaneously increase costs for manufacturers who rely on these materials, potentially raising prices for consumers. Mihir Makri's report for DD India.
Amid the tariff war, incoming Prime Minister Mark Carney visited a steel plant in Hamilton, Ontario on Wednesday. Canada is the biggest foreign supplier of steel and aluminium to the United States. The retaliatory tariffs are on top of those on 30 billion Canadian dollars worth of US goods Canada initially imposed on March 4 in response to broader tariffs from Trump. G7 foreign ministers meet in Canada to address Russia-Ukraine conflict, while US Secretary Marco Rubio dismisses concerns about a potential US takeover of Canada. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Canada ahead of a G7 meeting, marking the first visit by a US official since President Donald Trump's return to power. Rubio emphasized that the meeting will prioritize pressing global issues such as the Ukraine conflict rather than addressing Trump's contentious remarks about annexing Canada. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is attending alongside representatives from the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the European Union. Russia has presented the US with a list of demands for a deal to end its conflict against Ukraine. The meeting comes amid trade tensions between the US and Canada, with Canadian Foreign Minister vowing to raise tariffs at every meeting. Rubio acknowledged trade tensions, however, has emphasized shared interests between the US and Canada. US President Donald Trump has expressed optimism that the US negotiators could secure a ceasefire in the Ukraine conflict. Trump stated that a ceasefire would be 80% of the way to getting this horrible bloodbath finished. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasized that Washington wants Moscow's agreement to an unconditional halt to hostilities. The White House said that US envoy Steve Witkoff, a mediator in the Gaza and Ukraine wars, would be in Moscow this week for the talks on a ceasefire. The Kremlin has not indicated its readiness to stop fighting, and Russian President Vladimir Putin has shown no signs of backing down. Russia President Vladimir Putin has visited the western Russian region of Kursk for the first time since Ukrainian forces seized some territory in the region. Putin visited a control center in Kursk region used by Russian troops. The Russian president heard a report from Valery Gerasimov, head of the Russian General Staff, who told him that the Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region were now surrounded.
Our task is in the nearest future, in the shortest possible time, to completely defeat the enemy who has ducked in on the territory of Kursk region and is still conducting military operations here. To completely liberate the territory of Kursk region, to restore the situation along the state borderline. And of course, we need to think. I would ask you to think about the future and the creation of a security zone along the state border. We need to think about this too.
Meanwhile, Russia has claimed to have made significant new advances against Ukrainian forces in Kursk, while Ukraine says it has repelled 33 Russian attacks. The Russian Defense Ministry reported on Wednesday that its army had taken control of 5 settlements in Kursk and 2 settlements in Donetsk region over the past day. A video released by Russian military reporters on the same day showed that Russian troops had entered the center of Sudza, a strategic town in Kursk, while Ukraine said the Russian army had launched attacks against the Ukrainian army in several areas, including Kharkiv and Kupiansk, while the Ukrainian Air Force missile units and artillery attacked concentrations of Russian personnel, weapons and military equipment. The Kremlin on Wednesday said it was awaiting details from Washington about a proposal for 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine, while senior Moscow sources said a deal would have to take account of Russia's advances and address its concerns. U.S. President Donald Trump reversed U.S. policy on the conflict, launching bilateral talks with Moscow and suspending military assistance to Ukraine, demanding that it take steps to end the conflict. The United States agreed on Tuesday to resume weapons supplies and intelligence sharing after Kyiv said that talks in Saudi Arabia that it was ready to support a ceasefire proposal. Here's a report.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has hailed Tuesday's meeting in Saudi Arabia between US and Ukrainian officials as constructive and said a potential 30-day ceasefire with Russia could be used to draft a broader peace deal and that the resumption of US military aid and intelligence sharing was very positive. Zelensky made the remark during a press briefing in Kiev on Wednesday, where he said Ukraine supported a US effort to end Russia's 3-year-old conflict as soon as possible.
We will talk about security guarantees in more detail if there is a ceasefire for 30 days. These 30 days are meant to put on paper the steps we have agreed on with allies and format of the security guarantees that will be in place in Ukraine after the end of the war.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin said it was waiting for the US to inform it about the details of the proposed ceasefire in Ukraine. Washington said the ball is now in Moscow's court after Ukraine backed its suggestion of a 30-day ceasefire and agreed to immediate negotiations with Russia. The US lifted a freeze on military aid to Ukraine after the Jeddah talks. During a stop in Ireland after US-Ukraine talks in Saudi Arabia, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said United States was initiating contact with Russia and gauging its response.
Different ways to construct a deterrent on the ground that prevents another war from starting in the future. We're not going to go in with any sort of preconceived notion. The bottom line is it needs to be something that makes Ukraine feel as if they can deter and prevent a future invasion. How that looks and how that's put together, that's what we're going to be talking about. If we can get to that stage. Again, right now we're just trying to get to the stage where there's actual diplomacy happening. Here's what we'd like the world to look like in a few days. Neither side is shooting at each other, not rockets, not missiles, not bullets, nothing.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also hoped for the proposed 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine to materialize.
A ceasefire is indeed a positive thing, and we hope that it will materialize, and we hope that it will pave the way for peace, a just peace.
Welcoming the move, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said a ceasefire in Ukraine must be a step towards lasting agreement.
A ceasefire must be embedded in a peace process that lead to a lasting agreement. Ukraine's sovereignty must be preserved.
On the battlefront, Russia's missile strike on the Black Sea port of Odessa damaged a grain vessel and killed 4 people. Dheeraj Das reporting for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News. French Parliament adopts resolution in support of Ukraine. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is set to arrive on a 4-day visit, official visit in fact, to Bangladesh.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Members of the French National Assembly adopted a resolution on strengthening support for Ukraine, including a call to seize frozen Russian assets, which the government opposes. France has until now voiced opposition to seizing frozen Russian assets, arguing that such a move would be against international agreements in a stance that puts Paris at odds with its ally Britain. An amendment proposal by several members of parliament, including former Prime Minister Gabriel Attal, suggested going even further by using Russia's assets to strengthen Europe's defense capabilities. An Arab foreign ministers met in Qatar on Wednesday with US Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff to discuss reconstruction for Gaza. They agreed to continue consultations and coordination on the plan as a foundation for the reconstruction efforts. Foreign ministers from Qatar, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and the Secretary General of the Palestine Liberation Organization were present at the meeting. On Saturday, the 57-member Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, formally adopted a plan put forward by the Arab League at an emergency meeting in Saudi Arabia. The Egyptian spearheaded plan emerged as a proposal to rebuild the Gaza Strip under the future administration of Palestinian Authority in response to a proposal by US President Donald Trump to take over Gaza and displace its residents. The plan by Arab nations has been rejected by both Israel and its key ally, the United States, but has been endorsed by Britain, France, Germany and Italy. A fresh round of talks on a ceasefire in Gaza also began in Qatar on Tuesday, with Witkoff dispatched to Doha for the mediations. Meanwhile, replying to a question in White House, US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that nobody is expelling any Palestinians from Gaza. Previously, he had said that all Palestinians should be removed from Gaza.
He's expelling any Palestinians. I don't know. We talk about everything. Israel has been under siege, as you can see, and they had to fight back. October 7th was a terrible thing. People don't like to mention it, but it was a terrible, terrible day in the life of the world.
US President Donald Trump hosted Irish Prime Minister Micheál Martin on Wednesday. Both the leaders participated in the traditional shamrock presentation at an early St. Patrick's Day celebration. During the event, Trump celebrated the enduring bond between Ireland and the United States, paying tribute to notable figures of Irish descent, while Martin praised Trump's active efforts towards achieving peace in Ukraine and the West Asia. Martin said aid needed to be surged into Gaza, while also calling for a ceasefire and the release of all remaining hostages.
I understand fully where the president is coming from. I think there's actually room. Now we can discuss all this. I think there's room for those companies to grow in America, and many of them, by the way, have already announced fairly significant manufacturing investments now.
It's true.
And in fact, US President Donald Trump hosted Irish Prime Minister on Wednesday, and both the leaders participated in the traditional shamrock presentation at an early St. Patrick's Day celebration as well. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Wednesday rejected holding negotiations with the United States over a nuclear deal. On Friday, US President Donald Trump said he had sent a letter to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei urging negotiations and warning of possible military action if Iran refused. The letter was handed over to Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Wednesday by Anwar Gargash, diplomatic advisor to the President of the United Arab Emirates. In 2018, Trump withdrew the US from Tehran's 2015 nuclear deal with world powers and reimposed sanctions that have crippled Iran's economy. Tehran reacted a year later by violating the deal's nuclear curbs. Khamenei reiterated that Iran was not seeking a nuclear weapon and that the US invitation for talks was aimed at deceiving the world's public opinion.
In negotiations, one must be certain that the other party will honor its commitments. When we know they won't follow through, what is the point of negotiating? Therefore, the invitation to negotiate and the expression of willingness to do so is merely a deception of public opinion. If the goal of negotiations is to untie the knot of sanctions, then negotiating with the US administration will not achieve that. In fact, it will only tighten the knot.
US Secretary General Antonio Guterres is set to arrive on a 4-day official visit to Bangladesh to witness the Rohingya refugee camp situation. The visit is expected to strengthen international efforts to mobilize increased food aid for the Rohingya refugees and to accelerate efforts to resolve the Rohingya crisis. The UN Secretary General will have a meeting with the head of the interim government, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, on Friday. From there, they will go to Cox's Bazar in the same flight to visit the Rohingya situation at the camps. They also will have an iftar with the Rohingya people there. UN Resident Coordinator in Bangladesh, Juan Lewis, said, "We'll discuss the Rohingya situation and international cooperation in this regard." All right, indeed, India correspondent Naval Sangh Parmar is joining us live on the phone from Dhaka. Hi, Naval Sangh. UN Secretary General set to arrive on a 4-day official visit to Bangladesh to witness the Rohingya refugee camp situation. Can you tell us more about it?
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will arrive around 5 p.m. According to local time here in Bangladesh at Dhaka. And he's here in Bangladesh for almost 4 days. And during that time, he will go to Cox's Bazar in the southern part of Bangladesh, where the Rohingya camps are there, and around 13 lakhs Rohingya Muslims from Myanmar who fled to Bangladesh, fearing persecution in the ethnic classes in the Rakhine province of Myanmar. So after the aid cuts from the United States, there is a dearth of money in the UN agencies, and last week UN agency has warned that from 1st April UN will cut per day, per month aid per person from $12.5 to $6, and it is very, very less. And in this scenario, the food aid crisis will be there, and it will hugely impact the Rohingyas camp, refugees camp in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is also worried, and situation, as you know, that in Bangladesh, socio-economic and political situation is not very stable and not good, favorable for the hosting so many refugees here in Bangladesh. The situation is very critical, and this visit, people hopes that this will bring some relief, not the solution. Solution is not expected at this moment because world is involved in many other political and geopolitical issues right now. But there will be some relief, and he will appeal to the global community for the more funding to the food aid to the Rohingya.
Okay, so there will be no solution but a little respite. Naval Sangh, what actually is the Rohingya issue? Can you tell us for our viewers?
In 2017, there were a ethnic crisis started in Myanmar, particularly in the Rakhine province, which is close to Bangladesh and on the bank of Bay of Bengal. And there is a Rohingyas are basically Muslim community, and the Myanmar in general is a Buddhist nation, and there were some issues, and the ethnic clashes started there. And after that, the Arakan armies and other militia group, at that time there was a Aung San Suu Kyi's government, but during that time also there were some ethnic militia which was active in the Myanmar, and they started persecution of the Rohingyas, and fearing the loss of life, many people crossed the Naf river, which is the border between Myanmar and Bangladesh, and they came to Bangladesh, and here they got refugee status, and there are many camps in the Cox's Bazar district of Bangladesh, where around At that time, first they came 6 lakhs in first phase. Then after that, the number increased, and around now, 13 lakhs Rohingya Muslim people are staying in Bangladesh in the congested camps in the very fragile land, which is prone to earthquake also. Many times earthquake affected the Rohingya camps also. They are living there since last 2017, and now they are facing the food crisis. Earlier there were employment and education and health crisis, but now they are facing food crisis.
Okay, wonderful analysis that was. Naval Singh, thank you so much. We'll leave it there. And now news from Pakistan. Pakistani security forces stormed a train hijacked by separatist Baloch gunmen, killing all 33 attackers and ending a 30-hour standoff with hundreds of hostages. More than 340 train passengers taken hostage by BLA, a militant group fighting for the rights of Baloch people, were freed by security forces after a 30-hour siege. According to AFP, Pakistani army officer confirmed that 27 off-duty soldiers were shot by militants. Pakistan security forces launched a rescue mission Tuesday afternoon after a separatist group bombed a railway track in mountainous southwest Balochistan and stormed a train with around 450 passengers on board. The 27 slain soldiers had been travelling on the train as passengers. One on-duty soldier was killed in the clearance operation. The Baloch militants attacked the Jafar Express with a bomb and rocket fire on Tuesday while it was travelling from Quetta to Peshawar. Balochistan is a restive province in Pakistan which has witnessed armed revolt against what Baloch call an oppressive regime, alleging grave human rights abuses by the Pakistani army against the locals, which have been fighting for a separate homeland for many decades. Major Ecuadorian indigenous organization CONE and leftist social organization said on Wednesday they will not support incumbent Daniel Noboa for president in an April runoff. They have asked leftist candidate Luisa Gonzalez to respond to a list of proposals. The indigenous vote in the country overall appears divided, with some groups saying they will back Noboa. Noboa, a 37-year-old heir to a business fortune, beat Gonzalez, a protege of former President Rafael Correa, by less than 1% of the vote in February first round. The unexpectedly narrow margin means CONE leader and former candidate Leonidas Iza, who notched 5.25% of the vote, could potentially have important influence on who wins in a second round.
Not to new constitution. We are going to lose rights. There is no need at this moment to go into the process of a new constitution, just to have those on the right come and start eliminating the rights that we have won with our struggle, sweat and blood. Second, we have said no to large-scale open sky mining. We have to face illegal mining. We have to guarantee a process of respect to the implementation of popular consultations.
Angola will host the talks between Congo and the Rwanda-backed M23 armed group will begin in Luanda on March 18. Previous rounds of peace talks mediated by Angola have failed to halt the fighting between both the sides. But on Tuesday, Angola said the two sides had agreed to come to the negotiating table after Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi discussed the conflict with his Angolan counterpart João Lourenço. However, Luanda offered no timetable for when the negotiations would take place. Since January, the M23 has seized swathes of the mineral-rich eastern DRC, including the key cities of Goma and Bukavu, and has since set up to govern for the long term in the regions under its control. The M23's march has killed around 7,000 people since the beginning of 2025. A volcano in southwestern Guatemala erupted, creating a stunning display of lava erupting from its crater and prompting the evacuation of nearby communities. As per a report from the National Institute of Volcanology of Guatemala on Wednesday, the volcano had returned to its base activity, presenting favorable conditions for the visualization of the crater and only a column of magmatic gases after finishing its eruptive event. The volcano, known locally as Volcan de Fuego, has erupted several times over the last decade and is located around 19 miles south of Guatemala City. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi wraps up a two-day visit to Mauritius. We will tell you all the details related to it. US congressional briefing highlights human rights violations against minorities in Pakistan.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News on. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. No respite in the tariff war in sight as allies and others hit back at US with countermeasures. Trump warns of retaliatory tariffs, says US will win the financial battle with EU. Arab leaders signal readiness to continue consultations on the Gaza plan with US as a foundation for the reconstruction efforts. Trump says nobody expelling Palestinians from Gaza. G7 foreign ministers discuss Ukraine as US negotiators head to Moscow for a ceasefire. Kremlin says awaiting details of a US-Ukrainian proposal agreed this week. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrapped up a landmark two-day visit to Mauritius on Wednesday. It has seen the two nations elevate their ties to an enhanced strategic partnership and inking 8 pacts ranging from maritime security to trade in each other's currencies. Prime Minister also participated in the island nation's National Day celebrations and was even bestowed with its highest civilian award.
India and Mauritius, the two nations that share a deep-rooted connect, announced to further elevate their relationship to the level of an enhanced strategic partnership, marking a major milestone in economic and trade relations.
प्रधानमंत्री नवीन चंद्र रामगुलाम और मैंने भारत मॉरिशस साझेदारी को एनहेंस स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप का दर्जा देने का निर्णय लिया है। हमने निर्णय लिया कि मॉरिशस में पार्लियामेंट की नई बिल्डिंग बनाने में भारत सहयोग करेगा। यह मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी की ओर से मॉरिशस को भेंट होगी। मॉरिशस में 100 किलोमीटर लंबी पानी की पाइपलाइन के आधुनिकीकरण के लिए काम किया जाएगा।
Prime Minister of the Republic of India has honored us by his presence amidst us on the occasion of the National Day celebrations of the 57th anniversary of our independence. His distinguished presence on this momentous occasion is testimony to the unique and very special relations which bind our two countries.
In a significant boost to bilateral relations, Mauritius' Prime Minister Dr. Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam and Prime Minister Narendra Modi held comprehensive discussions during the Indian leader's two-day state visit to Mauritius. India and Mauritius signed 8 key agreements. The MOU between the Central Bank of Mauritius and the Reserve Bank of India on local currency settlement system aims to facilitate cross-border transactions. A credit facility agreement was also signed to finance projects under the pipe replacement program. Other notable agreements include the MOU on training program for diplomats, technical agreement on sharing of white shipping information, and MOUs on cooperation in micro, small and medium enterprises, training of public officers and ocean information services. The discussions also centered around strengthening bilateral ties with a focus on development partnership,
defense and maritime security, and people-to-people exchanges. The historic visit also saw Prime Minister Modi attending the 57th National Day celebrations of the island nation as the chief guest. The high point of the event was when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was honoured with Mauritius's highest civilian award, the Grand Commander of the Order of the Star and Key of the Indian Ocean, during the 57th National Day celebrations, where an Indian Navy contingent participated and an Indian naval ship made a port call. PM Modi dedicated the honour to the people of India.
This is not just my honor. It is the honor of 1.4 billion Indians. It is a tribute to the centuries-old cultural and historical bonds of kinship between India and Mauritius.
The inauguration of the Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Public Service and Innovation, Mauritius Area Health Centre and 20 HICDP projects during the visit further solidified the partnership. India also announced support for a new parliament building and phase 2 of the high-impact community development projects. Before wrapping up the two-day visit, the Indian Prime Minister immersed himself in Mauritian history and culture. He visited the sacred Ganga Talao, a revered Hindu pilgrimage site, and explored natural landmarks. With inputs from Akshay Dongre, Bureau Report, DD India.
A congressional briefing on the plight of minorities in Pakistan was held in Washington to highlight the discrimination that minorities face in Pakistan. The event was attended by a number of journalists, cricketers, Shia Muslims and congressmen, among others. Former Pakistani cricketer Danish Kaneria has alleged that he faced huge discrimination in Pakistan and his career was destroyed.
मेरे साथ भी ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन वाली चीज़ हुई है, बहुत ज़्यादा हुई है, मेरे कैरियर को तबाह किया है, ख़त्म किया है और जिसकी वजह से जो इज़्ज़त इक्वल वैल्यूज़ मुझे मिलनी चाहिए थी वो नहीं मिली पाकिस्तान में, जिसकी वजह से हम यूएस में हैं अभी। मकसद वही था कि अवेयरनेस करवाना था, सबको बताना था, स्पेशली यूएसए को भी हम बताना चाह रहे थे कि कितने लोग सफ़र करते, कितना ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम है, तो उस पर ज़रा एक्शन ले।
Zeba Mohammad Arif, who belongs to Shia community, talked about the women who are suffering in Pakistan and said the government is pressuring women against the minority religion.
We are here all together to speak against Pakistani government who are pressuring for minority religion and as well as people who don't have any voice, and especially we're talking about the women who are suffering in Pakistan. The country that who pressuring and women and against the minority religion.
While Indian-American U.S. Congressman Shri Thanedar urged the U.S. to condemn human rights violations in Pakistan against Hindu minorities and demand quick actions against Pakistan to ensure that these atrocities stop.
Hindu Action is having this conference in Rayburn House Office building at the U.S. Congress, and I'm here to support the Hindus and their struggle, to get human rights, their struggle to stop the atrocities that are happening in Pakistan on the Hindu minorities. Many girls are being coerced to convert their religion. There has been kidnapping that has happened of Hindu people, and I am here to demand that the State Department take action, economic actions, sanctions against Pakistan until these atrocities stop.
Meanwhile, former journalist for the Wall Street Journal, Asra Nomani, recalled how Daniel Pearl was kidnapped, beheaded and cut into pieces in 2002.
I saw on the streets of Karachi, Pakistan, the tragic impact of the sectarianism that is laying claim to too many minorities. My friend and colleague Daniel Pearl was the journalist who was kidnapped and then beheaded and cut into pieces in 2002. In the decades since and until today, we have a crisis in which too many minority people in the nation of Pakistan are not allowed the rights and freedoms of being equal citizens.
Aeronautical Development Agency on Wednesday successfully conducted test launch of homegrown Astra beyond visual range air-to-air missile from LCA-AF Mk1 prototype fighter aircraft. The test firing successfully demonstrated the direct hit of the missile on flying target. All the subsystems performed accurately, meeting all mission parameters and objectives. Astra missile is designed and developed by DRDO, capable of engaging the targets over 100 kilometers and equipped with advanced guidance and navigation capabilities, allows missile to destroy targets with greater accuracy. The missile is already inducted into the Indian Air Force. The successful test firing is a significant milestone towards the induction of LCA-AF Mk1A variant. Rajnath Singh has congratulated the teams of DRDO, IAF, ADA, HAL and all involved in the trial. Let's take a look at other stories making news. In a heartening display of women's empowerment and traditional craftsmanship, women in Chhindwara are engaged in creating herbal gulal from natural ingredients like tesu, rose and turmeric. This initiative not only promotes sustainable livelihoods but also helps preserve traditional knowledge and practices, encourages the use of organic and locally sourced materials, reducing the environmental impact of celebrations. The Holi Abhinandan program celebrations have begun in Dehradun, marking the start of one of the most vibrant and joyous festivals. This annual event is a grand showcase of cultural heritage, community spirit and the festive essence of Holi, setting the stage for a week of festivities filled with joy, unity and cultural pride. Revelers celebrate Flower Holi in Ahmedabad, experiencing the unique and eco-friendly way the city celebrates the festival of colors. Revelers immerse themselves in traditional Gujarati music and dance performances, including Garba and Dhol beats, offering a chance to experience the local culture and community spirit. Preparation work of Asia's most popular tulip garden is in full swing in Srinagar. This year, the garden will feature over 1.5 million tulip bulbs in 73 varieties. Located at the foothills of Zabarwan range, the garden offers breathtaking views of Dal Lake and is a major tourist attraction. The Tulip Festival, which typically lasts for 15 days to a month, showcases the beauty of tulips carpeting the terraced slopes in an awe-inspiring display of colors and fragrances. And still to come on DD Indian News Hour. Stay with us to know how Holi, the festival of colors, is celebrated in Mathura and Vrindavan. India joins global athletes at Special Olympics World Winter Games in Turin, competing in 6 sports. You're watching DD in the News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And stargazers in North and South America will be able to view a red-colored blood moon starting Thursday night in the first total lunar eclipse visible on the continents since 2022. The celestial event, observable with the naked eye, will have more than an hour of totality and can additionally be seen in parts of Western Europe and Africa as well as New Zealand. A lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth goes between the moon and the sun, casting the Earth's shadow on the moon. A rare total lunar eclipse involves the Earth's umbra, the darkest part of the planet's shadow covering the moon. According to NASA, this type of eclipse can also be called a blood moon due to the reddish-orange color the moon can become during the totality. The coloration occurs due to sunlight scattering through the Earth's atmosphere before reaching the moon's surface. Shorter wavelengths like blue and violet fail to reach the moon, leaving only longer wavelengths such as red and orange to illuminate it. For about an hour, both before and after totality, the moon will also be obscured in a partial eclipse. SpaceX postponed the launch of a replacement crew to the International Space Station, delaying the return of US astronauts Bush Wilmore and Sunita Williams, who have been stranded for 9 months due to problems with Boeing's Starliner. The launch was called off due to hydraulic issue with the Falcon 9 rocket's ground support clamp arm. NASA announced that the next available launch opportunity is Thursday evening, with a Thursday Crew 10 launch to blast off from the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. The Crew 9 mission would depart the space station on March 17. The crew will have 2 US astronauts and 1 astronaut each from Japan and Russia. NASA advanced the mission by 2 weeks after US President Trump and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk pushed for the earlier return of Wilmore and Williams. And let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Disney fans gathered in Segovia, Spain to celebrate the upcoming release of the live-action Snow White movie, sparking excitement in the historic city. The promotional event, organized by Disney, drew large crowds of both Disney enthusiasts and tourists eager to witness a magical connection between the beloved animated classic and Segovia's medieval charm. Snow White to premiere in Los Angeles on March 15. In an innovative approach to healthcare, doctors in Switzerland are broadening the scope of prescriptions for patients dealing with mental health conditions like depression and chronic illnesses. As part of a pilot project launched last month in Neuchâtel, a city in western Switzerland, doctors are now prescribing activities that go beyond traditional medicine, encouraging patients to engage in strolls through public gardens and visits to art and history exhibits. Boki, a 3-year-old brown bear who underwent brain surgery in October 2024, has woken up from hibernation in a healthy condition and is playing with toys. Boki had been suffering from seizures and was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, having excess fluid in the brain. Specialist wildlife veterinary surgeon Romain Pizzi was able to successfully operate on Boki, fitting a stent between Boki's brain and abdomen to help him pass the excess fluid. Holi, the festival of colors, is celebrated with unmatched enthusiasm across India. However, the heart of Holi beats strongest in Mathura and Vrindavan, where the festival carries deep cultural and spiritual significance. Let's take a closer look at the traditions that make Holi truly special.
Holi signifies the victory of good over evil and marks the arrival of spring season. The festival is closely tied to the tales of Lord Krishna, particularly in Mathura and Vrindavan, where Holi celebrations are grand and unique. The famous Latmar Holi of Barsana is a striking tradition where women playfully hit men with sticks, recreating a legendary episode from Lord Krishna's life. Meanwhile, Phoolon ki Holi, or the floral Holi in Vrindavan, fills the air with petals symbolizing peace and love. Markets are buzzing with eco-friendly herbal colors made from natural ingredients, ensuring celebrations are safe for both people and the environment. Vibrant pichkaris or the water guns in innovative designs are also drawing attention. Adding sweetness to the festivities, shops are decked with tempting trays of gujia, a traditional Holi delicacy filled with rich khoya dry fruits and flavors of cardamom, a must-have treat for the occasion. As colors fill the air this Holi, the festival continues to inspire joy, harmony, and the spirit of togetherness. A reminder that life's most beautiful moments are best celebrated with love and laughter. Kriti Varera's report for DD India.
You're watching DD India News. Our time now for sport, and Real Madrid reached the Champions League quarter-finals by beating Atletico 4-2 on penalties after a 2-2 draw following extra time on Thursday. Antonio Rudiger scored the winning penalty after Atletico's 1-0 second leg win, with Conor Gallagher scoring early and Vinicius Jr. missing a late penalty for Real. Julian Alvarez's shootout penalty for Atletico was disallowed as he accidentally touched the ball twice. Despite Jan Oblak saving a penalty from Lucas Vazquez, Marcos Llorente scored, leaving Rudiger to seal Real's win. Real will face Arsenal in the quarterfinals as they chase their 16th European Cup title. Arsenal also advanced to the Champions League quarterfinals with a 9-3 aggregate win after 2-2 draw against PSV on Thursday. Already leading 7-1 from the first leg, Arsenal went ahead through Alexander in the 5th minute, but Ivan Perisic equalized for PSV. Declan Rice restored Arsenal's lead before half-time, but the 70th minute goal earned PSV a draw, though Arsenal's progress was never in doubt. Aston Villa cruised into the Champions League quarterfinals with a 3-0 win over Club Brugge, sealing a 6-1 aggregate victory. Brugge, trailing 3-1 from the first leg, started strong but struggled after Kyriani Shabe was sent off in the 16th minute for fouling Marcus Rashford. Villa took control in the second half with goals from Marco Asensio and Ian Martsen. Back in the Champions League after 40 years, Villa now face a tough test against PSG, who beat Liverpool on penalties. The Special Olympics World Winter Games are underway in Turin, Italy, with over 1,500 athletes from 102 countries. India has sent a strong contingent competing in 6 sports. DD India correspondent Narayan Singh brings us all the latest from Turin.
The Special Olympics World Winter Games are in full swing in Italy. Over 1,500 athletes from 102 countries have come together to compete in the 8 winter sports. But this is more than just competition. It's about breaking barriers, celebrating abilities, and proving that sports truly include everyone. And India is proudly part of this global event. A 49-member contingent, including 30 athletes, representing India in 6 different sports. The excitement here in Italy's Piedmont region is incredible. More than 100,000 spectators have gathered to cheer these amazing athletes. The competition is intense, but the spirit of unity and sportsmanship is even stronger. Apart from this, athletes are competing in 8 sports, including alpine skiing, snowboarding, figure skating, cross country. Each competitor has worked hard to be here and proving that no obstacle is too big when you have the will to succeed. Talking about the venues, alpine skiing is taking place in Sestre, snowshoeing also taking place in Sestre, and snowboarding, the action is taking place in Bradonicia. Cross-country skiing, the competition is heating up in Pragoletto, and figure skating is unfolding in Turin here, and the floorball, the fast-paced matches are underway in Turin in this Inalpi Arena, which is just behind me. And this is about more than medals, it's about showcasing the incredible talent and determination of these athletes with intellectual disabilities. The passion, the hard work, and the energy here is truly inspiring. And these athletes are giving their best, and we will keep bringing you all the updates of Special Olympic Winter Edition from Turin.
Former Indian cricketer Syed Abid Ali has passed away at the age of 83 in the United States on Wednesday. The all-rounder became part of Indian team during the late 1960s and early 1970s. He was known for his lower-order batting and medium-pace bowling. Abid Ali featured in 29 test matches from 1967 to 1974, scoring 1,018 runs with 6 half-centuries. He took 47 wickets with best figures of 6 wickets for 55 runs. After retirement, he relocated to California. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Prasar Bharati from all of us in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.